I gave you a little warm-up on today's topic in my last live stream because in the UK, house prices have fallen the most in 14 years. For many home buyers, the rise in interest rates is mutating into a cost trap now. And the situation is likely to worsen there, and that is quite sure. So the British housing market is in a state of emergency. Real estate prices fell in August by 5.3% compared to the same month last year, and thus more sharply than at any time since 2009. That was when the financial crisis gripped the world. According to Nationwide Building Society, the UK's largest building society, prices fell 0.8% month on month. That's twice as much as economists had expected. The slowdown is not surprising, is what Nationwide chief economist Robert Gardner told Bloomberg. In the fight against inflation, the Bank of England has now raised the key interest rate 14 times, making real estate financing more expensive. And this puts pressure on the demand for houses, but also for apartments. After years of boom, when there seemed to be no end to price increases in Great Britain either, property prices have fallen in 10 of the last 12 months. Over the year, the average home price has fallen to around £259,000. That's down almost £15,000. The rise in interest rates is not only a problem for Brits who are now failing to buy a house, but also for many consumers who bought their own property years ago, because unlike here in Germany, where home buyers tie down their real estate financing for 10, 15 or more years, variable loans are a mass phenomenon in Great Britain. Even fixed interest loans often end there after 5 years. About every fifth borrower is said to have financed his house with variable conditions. Here in my country, it's just 1 to 2%. This means that home buyers will feel the interest rate U-turn immediately and will have to pay a higher loan rate or mortgage rate in addition to the higher cost of living due to inflation. About 2 years ago, the key interest rate in Great Britain was 0.1%. At the beginning of the month, the central bank raised it to 5.25%. A real estate loan now costs more than 6%, and many owners are now threatened with a cost trap. According to the Reuters news agency, 800,000 British property owners will have to take out follow-up financing this year alone, and next year it will probably be 1.6 million. The situation will probably worsen a little because the end of the interest rate hikes is unlikely to have been reached yet. Experts are assuming that the key interest rate will break through the 6% threshold. This would make loans more expensive again, and the real estate market would be further burdened. Experts from the British think tank Resolution Foundation expect that interest rates will not fall below the 4.5% mark before the end of 2027. Up to 90% of the loans have variable interest rates. That's the problem. And because of the high inflation, many central banks have implemented the change in monetary policy. What is striking, however, is that their effects are affecting real estate markets in particular, which are heavily influenced by loans with variable interest rates. This is also the case in Scandinavian countries such as Norway and Sweden. 90 or 60% of all owners there have taken out such a loan. When interest rates rise, most people only have a 3-month grace period before the increased costs kick in. Real estate prices in Sweden have already fallen by around 15% since spring last year. But still, the economy is not suffering from Brexit. But Jeremy Hunt is convinced that inflation will fall below 5% by the end of 2023. Most recently, the inflation rate fell to 6.8% in July from 7.9% in June. And as I said, Hunt expects the inflation in the UK to fall significantly over the medium term. There could still be a slip in September, is what Hunt told the BBC on Sunday. But after that, annual inflation should fall to around 5%, as forecast by the British Central Bank. Halving inflation was one of 5 key promises Conservative Prime Minister Rishi Sunak made to voters for 23. We are on track to halve inflation this year, is what Hunt said on Saturday. And if we stick to our plan, we will ease the pressure on families and businesses alike, he said. In October 22, the inflation rate reached 11.1%, its highest level in 41 years. Meanwhile, inflation is fading, but it's still the highest among the top 7 economies, the G7. As I said, in July was just 6.8%, but still that high. And the Bank of England expects inflation to fall to 4.9% by the end of 23. This would be a faster decline than forecast in May. But as I said, experts still expect the Bank of England to raise interest rates, so homeowners will not fast be getting any easing here. And the cost of living crisis is far from over. And we need to talk about inflation then. If it reaches, let's say Hunter's right, and it reaches 4.9% in December, then, if they don't delay it again, the checks on imports from the EU start in 2024. And even this government had to admit that this will bring inflation up again. And if you want to know more about Brexit, UK politics, and so on, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.